Imagine a storm so vast and so relentless that it seemed to know no boundaries. A storm made of men, horses, and steel. In the 13th century, under the banner of Genghis Khan, an unprecedented war machine laid waste to everything in its path, from Asia to Europe. The chroniclers of the time described the Mongols not as simple invaders, but as a supernatural force sent to test humanity. This is not just the story of an invasion, but of a change of eras. Because when the Golden Horde entered the lands of Eastern Europe, it did not arrive to destroy and leave. It arrived to change forever the culture, politics, and very identity of a region that, until then, had not known the absolute terror of the steppes. The battle on the banks of the Kalka River was not only the first confrontation between Mongols and Slavic forces, it was a warning to an entire civilization, proof that borders no longer existed for those who dominated the steppes and for those who did not fear death. Stay with me until the end and discover how a simple battle on the steppes ended up reshaping the map of Eastern Europe forever. Because this is not just a story of an invasion, it is the story of the birth of a new order.
It was the year 1223 when armies of Russian princes and Polabsian warriors faced a previously unknown force on the banks of the Kalka River. The Mongols did not fight like ordinary armies. They did not march in predictable lines. They did not honor codes of battle. Their speed was terrifying, their tactics unpredictable, and their ferocity knew no bounds. The battle ended in such complete carnage that chronicles of the time described rivers red with blood and a land so saturated with death that it seemed cursed forever. The captured princes and boyars were not simply executed. The Mongols suffocated them under a platform of planks while they held a feast over their bodies. And so the Golden Horde was born, not as a simple army, but as a machine of total domination. Under the banner of Batu Khan, grandson of Genghis, his forces swept across the steppes and overran the major Slavic cities. In 1240, Kiev, the spiritual and commercial jewel of Eastern Europe, fell to the Mongol spears. Records say that the walls did not hold out for more than a few hours, and that the churches, once sacred refuges, became tombs for a terrified population. The message was clear: a new order would rule the steppes, and from it would arise a power so vast and so ruthless that it would forever mark the memory of a civilization.
The Golden Horde did not come to destroy and leave. It was not a simple barbarian invasion to steal riches and disappear. The Mongols did not want only to plunder, they wanted to rule. The main Russian cities, Moscow, Vladimir, Suzdal, and many others, had no choice but to recognize the supremacy of the new power and pay tribute. The princes became vassals, humiliated under the weight of the Mongol yoke, but forced to collaborate in order to survive. However, behind the terror and servitude, an invisible transformation was taking shape. The Mongols did not only bring death and fire, they brought a new commercial and political logic, opened paths to the east, expanded trade routes, and connected Europe and Asia in an unprecedented way. The Mongol communication and logistics system, a web of roads and stations, would allow not only the control of their conquests, but the exchange of cultures and technologies. The Golden Horde became not only a military power, but an invisible forge for a new Eastern Europe, marked by the mixture of Slavic and Asian traditions, forged in the heat of swords and the weight of tributes.
The arrival of the Mongols shook not only armies and borders, but souls and beliefs. The invaders did not seek to destroy all religions. On the contrary, they adapted to local cultures and beliefs in order to consolidate their rule. The Khans of the Golden Horde adopted Islam as the state religion while tolerating Orthodox Christianity under specific rules. This policy created a unique spiritual atmosphere in the steppes, but not without deep tensions. The Orthodox suffered under the weight of a new order that did not recognize their spiritual supremacy, and many religious people saw in the Mongols proof of the apocalypse foretold in the scriptures. The memory of this religious submission gave rise to the myth of the Tartar yoke, a time of trial and sacrifice, but also of spiritual and cultural rebirth. For even under the Mongol boot, the religious and cultural identity of the Slavs did not disappear. On the contrary, it was reborn, strengthened, and prepared to forge a new era.
As terrifying as it was, the Golden Horde was not invincible. The Mongols themselves were not immune to the forces that shake all empires. Internal rivalries, power struggles, and an economy strained by successive uprisings and the difficulty of administering such a vast territory. As the Horde lost strength, a new center of power gained prominence. Moscow, once a vassal city, began to transform itself into the heart of a future power. The Muscovite princes not only learned Mongol tactics and strategies, but also took advantage of internal divisions to build a new order. The confrontation culminated in 1380 on the Kulikovo plains, when Russian forces faced and defeated the Mongols in open battle for the first time. The battle did not mean the immediate end of Mongol rule, but it marked an irreversible change in the balance of power in Eastern Europe. The seed of a united and independent Russia was beginning to germinate.
The Golden Horde was not just an invasion. It was not a simple war or a battle lost in time. It was a civilizational transformation that reshaped borders, alliances, and the very notions of identity in Eastern Europe. If it were not for the Golden Horde, Moscow would never have emerged as the heart of a new Russia. If it were not for the tensions and exchanges promoted by the Mongols, Europe and Asia would not have come together with such intensity. If it were not for the terror of the Mongol spears, Slavic spirituality and culture would not have found the strength to flourish under such overwhelming pressure. The Golden Horde is no longer on the map, and no longer rides the steppes or haunts the walls of Kiev or Moscow. But its spirit, its marks, and its impact live on. Because to understand who we are and where we are going, sometimes we need to look to those who forged us in the heat and terror of steel.
The Mongol invasion was not just a battle for territory. It was not just a military conquest or an era of terror and tribute. It was a battle for souls and cultures, a test of iron and blood that helped lay the foundations for the formation of modern Eastern Europe. The Golden Horde no longer reigns, but its name has not been forgotten. Its memory lives on in the borders, in the churches, in the legends, and in the scars of a land that does not easily forget.
Because such a vast storm does not pass without leaving deep scars, scars that continue to echo in the pages of history. If this journey has revealed a new perspective on Europe and its origins, be sure to stay with us, because each episode, each battle, and each empire has a story to tell. And each story has the power to change forever the way we see the past, the present, and the future.